Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
The Stock Movers Report, your roundup of companies making moves in the stock market, harnessing the power of Bloomberg data.
Let's take a look now at some of the stocks on the move today here in Europe. I'm Caroline Hepker alongside Lizzie Burden, and we're joined by Bloomberg reporter Louise Moon. Louise, should we start with Novo Nordisk? Big staff cuts. How have the markets been reacting?
Indeed, yeah. Well, this comes, if we look back at the wider context, Novo obviously were booming in the market, and then they've been facing increasing competition. Their stock is down over 40% year to date, and then this host of bad news this morning, as you mentioned, you would kind of expect that to pull the stock down further. It did initially drop, but shares are now rising. But on the news, they're cutting 9,000 jobs. So that's about 11% of their staff, and mostly in Denmark, in their home market. And that's with the aim of saving about $1.3 billion by 2026. They've also cut their profit forecast. That's for the third time this year. So they're seeing profits of as much as 10% growth rather than 27% growth that they had seen previously. As I say, stocks then initially dropped. They are now rising. Analysts are essentially saying that it shows the company's taking action to improve things. So it's being proactive to turn things around. One noted it was the first action they've seen from the company to do something about this increased competition in the space. And the next thing to look ahead for really is they've got an investor day on September 17th. So they'll lay out a roadmap for what's to come. So that'll be the next key thing that analysts will be focusing on.
Louise, what's going wrong with Primark? AB Foods down more than 10%.
I know, erased their year-to-date gains this morning. So they had their second half update, weakness essentially across the board. So they're blaming consumer caution, geopolitical uncertainty, inflation. So as you say, Primark sales, they dropped. That's obviously what ABF are mostly known for. But a key thing people are also really focusing on is their sugar unit. That's really been in focus, and it's continuing to weigh on the wider companies. They're saying that they're seeing some improvement in profitability for sugar, but they are still expecting a £40 million loss in the sugar unit. They recently closed a plant in the UK. They've had to restructure some Spanish operations, and they said this morning from those two things, they're expecting a £200 million hit from that. So things, they still got quite a lot of fires to fight, and that's obviously being reflected in the drop in their stock this morning.
It's doing battle with the queue in a Primark that is the major issue as far as I'm concerned.
That's the issue, is it?
Through the piles. I mean, and it's also one of those places where there are so many small items, a bit like IKEA, Primark, many others. I'm sure there's a way that they get us to spend lots of money. Anyway, that aside, we love those stores, don't we? Let's think about Inditex.
Because you're more of a Zara shopper, aren't you, Caroline?
I've been known to walk into a Zara. What is in style for Inditex at the minute?
So shares are climbing this morning for Inditex. Spanish retailer, the world's biggest retailer, as you say, owns Zara. They've had essentially a positive start to the third quarter, and analysts are saying this is indicating resilience. There's been a lot of worries for the whole wider sector about consumer sentiment, trade tensions weighing on sales, but a positive start to the third quarter. So revenue was up 9% in the 5 weeks to September 8th. So it was a bit of a relief. They had a bit of a disappointing first half, but this is indicating potentially good things to come. So it's boosting their stock this morning.
The Stock Movers Report from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.